Hey guys, welcome back to Zombie Survivor Game Part 4. You will finish the game at the end of this. You notice there's a timer up here in the upper left, and then there is the superpower that slowly grows. And once you reach full power on your superpower, you'll be able to spray the enemies from all directions. You also have your cash, and if you click on this weapons upgrade at the upper right, which I'm about to do, you are able to make your bullets spray, and they go from 2 shots that are spraying to 3, and it costs 150 cash. And then you guys will go all the way until you can complete the game. Your timer will see how far along you go, and the zombies will increase how often they're in the game. Every 10 seconds they'll come in faster and faster. So I hope you guys enjoy and get ready to get started with Zombies Part 4 and finishing the game. We left off Part 3 with having a score and cash counter as well as a health bar. And so if we are able to fire our projectiles and hit these animated zombies coming at us, our score goes up as well as our cash. And we will use that in this episode so that we can buy a double shot and a spray pattern with our projectiles. So we'll be able to fire 2, and then if we get enough cash, we'll be able to fire a spray pattern of 3. And so we also are able to get hit and our health bar goes down. We're also going to add a superpower in, and this super will allow us to fire in all directions. So first, let's add in a button that we can push to upgrade our weapon. So first, let's add in an upgrade weapon button that we can push to make our weapon fire 2 projectiles or even 3 projectiles. Since we've already created a weapons class, we can go into it and upgrade our weapon, and we can just have it be the weapon button. In our weapon, we're going to create a constructor. So go ahead and type out public weapon, and then we're going to make it another image. So set image, a new Greenfoot image, and we are just going to have this be text. So we'll call this weapon upgrade, but we're going to have this on 2 different lines. So weapon / upgrade, that would be 25 font size, a color dot black for the foreground, and then color dot, oh, we need to make a new color that's clear. So we'll do new color 0, 0, 0, 0. So this is red, green, blue, RGB, and then this is the transparency for the 4th one. So that is actually the parameters of creating a new color. So we need a parenthesis for that. So as you see, this gets highlighted, so that's covered. Then this gets highlighted, that's covered. And then you do a 3rd parenthesis here to make sure that that is covered. So now these are all created within that, and so the image is now a new Greenfoot image that is text. If you go into the Greenfoot API documentation, it'll show you that a new Greenfoot image can either be transparent, which we've done before, which would be the width and the height, which would be just 2 numbers in the parameters, or it can be also text, font size, foreground color, background color. So that's what we've done there. Okay, as well as a couple others. So that is actually all we're going to do for weapon, what the weapon looks like. Since the weapons class is just going to have one command in the act method, we are just simply going to put it in the act method and not create a separate method. If Greenfoot dot is pressed this, don't think it's is pressed, I believe it's mouse pressed, sorry. We are going to get the score, get the cash right here, and we are going to subtract the cash, but we need to figure out what that is. Okay, so in order for weapons to receive the cash, we need to get, where is the cash? Okay, so it's cash in our counter. Money, yes, money is in counter. So our weapon needs to be able to access our counter class if that's what we're going to change. Okay, so we can do counter, counter, so that we have created a counter for the whole weapon class, and we have called it lowercase counter. Now, I'm actually going to change this to weapon button and weapon button, just so we are very clear what this is. Our counter can be received in weapon button, but we need to actually add in our weapon button into the world. So we want to be able to also access our weapon button in the world. So we are going to do weapon button to weapon equals new weapon button. Now, if you remember, this requires a counter. Now, what counter does it require? Well, it's going to require the counter that has already been added into the world. Okay, because this is the counter that we reference all the time. So we know which counter we're going to throw in there. It's going to be our lowercase counter. Now, of course, we could make a different name for this. We would just need to make sure that that name is the same in here. Okay, so remember that this is the name that we use throughout the reference to which counter? Well, the lowercase counter. Which health bar? The lowercase health bar. So now that we have the information from the counter, or we're getting it passed to it, and we have a way to store it, we need to actually store it. So this counter is equal to the counter that is getting passed. So I could name this counter 2, and this dot counter knows it's referring to this counter, and counter 2 is referring to what's getting passed, but it's also the same and very common. Once you guys get used to it and understand it, that counter 2 can just equal counter, and it knows this is referencing this one. This dot counter is the instance of the counter that we're referring to, and so this is what we call an instance variable, and this dot counter is this instance of the counter, of weapon button, which will store this counter. Okay, so now the rest of the way, it knows it's the only thing that it can access is a reference that is made, an instance reference, which is made up here. So when we just do counter now, it knows it's referring to this dot counter. So our counter, now that we can access our counter, the dot is referencing the counter class, and there we can change our money to minus 150. Okay, and we're going to say money could equal counter.money minus 150. If we actually add in this reference, we can't save the world. We have to manually add it in. Add object weapon button can equal 900 for the X value, 100 for the Y value. Okay, so we have our weapon button up there. And even if we click right now, our cache does change, which is good. Okay, so our cache changes. So that's step 1, but we need to make it so that we can only click on weapon button and actually have something happen if our counter.money is greater than 149. So if it equals 150 essentially or more. And actually our counter money, this is the noob way to say minus counter.money. You can just do counter.money minus equals, and that will subtract 150 and set counter money now equal to previous counter money minus 150. Okay, so now it works the same way, except, okay, and then we click weapon. So now we have our weapon, our cache go down, and it won't work if we don't have 150. But now we need to change something here. So weapon button, when it gets pushed, we need to have something else happen. And we need that something else. We need our projectiles. So we need to find our projectiles. Where are our projectiles getting added in? Well, they're getting added in our player class. and they're getting added in right here, fire projectile. So we are going to add a variable that changes when we click weapon button and this if statement actually executes. Okay, so we have to create int weapon upgrade, and we'll start off at 1, and we will say weapon upgrade plus plus. So if it successfully has over 150, and then we subtract, and then we upgrade our weapon. Now we need in our player this to be able to access our weapon button, which will say what our weapon upgrade is at. So weapon button dot weapon upgrade, but our player needs to be able to be passed our weapon button information. Okay, and so we can create a main player that has just new player, and we can actually change right before we add it in. After we create all of these variables, we can still add in, we can set main player equal to new player with weapon button now included. Okay, and we will do that here in a second. So we need to go back into player, and we are going to copy our constructor for player, and we can actually make a second constructor. So when we first create main player, it will have no parameter. But then we can also create a main player that has a parameter. So our main player will have a weapon button, because that's what we need to receive, weapon button parameter. And so we need to basically do this as for the instance to be able to receive this code. And now we have the ability to store it, the ability to receive it, and we just need to do that. This dot weapon button will store the weapon button that's getting passed to us. And then in our my world, we tell Greenfoot, no, this will actually work. Just type it out again, maybe. And now it sees it. Now it gets it. Okay, so now when we add in our main player, it will be equal to new player with a weapon button in there instead of just an empty parameter, which is what it is up here. The reason we can't just create weapon button and put it in right here is because we don't even declare what weapon button is until right here in our code. Now, our upgrade will count, but we need to have our player utilize this weapon button information. Okay, and weapon button dot weapon upgrade, because that's the value of the variable in weapon button, is equal to 1. It'll fire a projectile. But if copy and paste, if this equals 2, we are going to fire a projectile and move that projectile 20. And I'm going to copy and paste that. Change the reference name for this second projectile we're adding in. Change it, change it, change it. And we can make it be follow right behind that first projectile. And let's have this first projectile move 25. And this will be 5. And we'll just see how this looks. Okay, so now let's see what happens when we upgrade. Okay, we'll make this go a little faster for us. Click on weapon button. Click on it again. There we go. Ah, now we got dual bullets. And if you line them up, you can see you can knock out two at once now. Okay, if you want to change that even more, which I think I'm going to go ahead and go back into player, and I'm going to get their rotation. And so before our rotation, we set the rotation to the rotation of the player. But let's set the rotation to the location of the player -5, and then this will be +5. So this will give it a more of a spray effect with 2. And let's go ahead and speed this up again. Upgrade. And now you can see they have a little bit more of a spray effect. I like that. Okay. All right, now if we click on it again, upgrade will go up again, but it will be weapon upgrade will be level 3, and we don't have anything for that. Okay, so we would lose. Okay, so in order to stop that, we can have our weapon button first have a level 3, which of course we need to have. And so if it's a level 3, as you guys can imagine, we can add in -5, +5, and then we can actually just copy this part. Oh, we don't want it there. Copy this part, paste, change the reference, change the rotation to straight ahead, and let's change this reference and this reference. I believe, not quite. There it is, all 4 of them. Okay, so projectile 3, projectile 3, projectile 3, projectile 3. Okay, if we have 150, and let's say we have even more than that, say 150, click, click. Okay, now we have 2 projectiles firing out. And now let's get to 3. Oh. Now we have our 3 projectiles firing out. Okay, but not exactly doing what I want them to do. Let's go back in there to player. So these, okay, so that's why. We need to change this back to 20. I thought I was going to have one right after the other, but I decided to split them up. So let's at least have them firing out correctly. And let's have our weapon button cost 0. Okay, there's 2. And our money has to be greater than 0, so I guess we're kind of back in the same boat. Okay, then click on weapon button, and now we have our 3. Doesn't feel like they spread quite enough. I'm going to add 10 to them, and I'm going to go back in and add 10 to the others as well. So -10, -10, -10, -10. And then -0, so straight ahead. So we'll have -10 on each of these. So then when we click here, that might be a little bit too much spray, you can decide. But pretty quickly we can get to 3 weapons, projectiles 3. Okay. Now that we've got our weapon upgrade button, we are going to have our super get made, and so we can add in our superpower, And our superpower is going to be similar to our health bar. And so we are going to actually copy a lot of the code from the health bar. Copy. We're going to go into our superpower. We're going to paste. Okay, so now our image is going to be a little bit larger. Superpower limit. And if you notice, super is a keyword. Okay, so never use a variable that is just called super. So superpower limit will be 100. And actually, since this int final superpower limit with underscores in between each of these, this is how you are supposed to make a constant. Okay, and so final int superpower limit. Okay, and so final int final makes it so that this will never change. So if we know for a fact our limit on our superpower will be 100, we can just leave it at that. Okay, and so we can do superpower limit plus 2. Well, we need to change the constructor to superpower. Super underscore power underscore limit plus 1. And then we're going to fill it super count. And so our super count will start off at 0. And that is what's going to count how long until the super fills up. So it's going to be based off timing. Okay, so it'll count up every once in a while, and it will super count, and we will actually copy this and paste it so it's the exact same as in the act method right here, these 4 and these 4. Okay, and so you can leave the world, my world, get world, all that stuff, because we are going to set the location of our superpower the same way we set our location of the health bar. We will obviously not lose health, but we will use super. Okay, and so now our location will be the player's location, x minus 5. We are actually going to move the x over a little bit, and then we are going to subtract 80 from the y so it's above it. Okay, then we need to create use super, and now our use super code will say if super counts is greater than 100, we will do something, and then super counts will equal 0. So super count greater than or equal to 100. Since we don't want our super count filling up every second and a half, we're going to need to do something else to add to that. Let's take that out. Use super. Public void use super. Super count greater than or equal to 100. Let's just test it. Set super count to 0. So it should, first of all, we should have just created, I guess, a red once we add it into the world. superpower. Yeah, once we add it into the world, go ahead and just create it. Superpower, superpower equals new superpower. We're going to go ahead and add object superpower, same way we added our health bar, referencing main player dot getX minus 10 plus 10, trying to move that bar over to the right a little bit, further over this way because it's going to be bigger. Dot get y, and you're welcome to test it and put it however you want. Yeah, there's no super count plus plus for now, just to test it. There we go. Okay, so it's red. We want it to be blue. So we can go in and do the fill, do blue, even though none of it's filled up in the start. Who cares what color it is before it runs, but that's all right. Okay, so now we know it fills up very, very quickly. So we need to actually have it slow down. So we're going to have a counter that will move super count up. So instead of super count plus plussing, always, we're going to have count plus plus and say if count is divisible by 5 to start, equals 0, super count will add up. Okay, so now it goes up slower. We need to have super count do something. We'll need to be able to read our superpower class and be able to read super count so that it can fire all these projectiles as well, because that's where our projectiles are going to fire from. Okay, so just like right here, fire projectile, we are going to say public void super power. We are going to need to be able to access our super class. We can add in not just a weapon button, but also superpower, and superpower. And in our my world, this expects superpower. Since we've already created it up here, we are able to reference it now. In our player, if superpower, we need to be able to grab it. We have not done that yet. This dot superpower equals superpower. So this allows us to store it. Now superpower dot superpower will get the variable superpower from our superpower. Ooh, it's called super count, not superpower. So our player will have an error. Yes, super count. Okay, which is good. We don't want it to be named the same as the class, because that would make this confusing. And we've named this our superpower method. It's a method. Superpower used. Let's call it that. Okay, it's worth the time early on making sure things are clear than confusing something and messing something up big time and having bugs in your code at the end. Okay, so superpower.superCount. If that count is greater than 99, we are going to start a 30-second timer. Super timer plus plus. So we're going to need to create that variable, super timer, in the player class. So we know our player is always going to be in the game, and that's going to start off at 0. And so if our super timer goes up, and super timer is greater than 30 if the super timer is greater than 30. So for a half second, you are going to be able to do this if statement. But then once super timer is greater than 30, so if superpower.superCount is greater than 99 and super timer is less than 30, we are going to create 6 projectiles. Holy smokes. So 6 projectiles. So there's 3, there's 3. And I'm just going to add a 1 to each one of these. 21, 31, 21, 21, 2, 1. And this will be 1, 1, 1, 21, 21, 21, 31, 31, 31, 31. Okay, now we are just going to have them rotate in a different way. Okay, so we are going to have them rotate minus 60, plus 60, and then one will be straight ahead. So this will be right, and this will be up diagonal to the right, down diagonal to the right. And now I want projectile 1 to be rotated at minus 180. So that'll be shooting left. And this will be plus 120 and minus 120. So these last two will be up and to the left, down and to the left. So now you will have a superpower. Then we're going to set super timer if our super timer greater than 29. We are going to set our superpower.superCount equal to 0, and we're going to set super timer equal to 0. So everything resets. So in our superpower class, our super count will add up every 5th count, which is about every 12th of a second. Count will add up 1 every 5 frames. And then we need to make sure that this super count does not mess us up. And of course, make sure you have superpower used in the act method. And now you survive for a moment, and you can have your superpower used. That is fresh. Okay, that is nice. Okay, but you need to be ready to use it, because sometimes it cannot be useful, so you need to be ready to spray all around. Now, let's have our zombies increase in health. In our My World class, I've added in, not sure if I ever showed you guys, this loop, a while loop, that is just one statement, so you don't need the curly brackets, but you can add it in here. Okay, and this allows for a delay. And so we've also made spawn speed a variable, if you guys remember that. And we can have our spawn speed increase actually as the game goes on. So right now our spawn speed is 30, and spawn speed will be faster if you lower the value of spawn speed. So if we have our count, if count is divisible by 600 every 10 seconds equals 0. So this means when our frames have 600 frames go by, which is 10 seconds, 60 frames a second. we are going to lower our spawn speed just -1. Okay, and that will make our every 10 seconds our speed of our zombies be a little bit faster. Might need to upgrade your weapons. Good superpower right there. Upgrade weapons. We need to make sure our weapons don't upgrade more than once. Okay, so we also want to say that if weapon upgrade is greater than 3, set it equal to 3. Okay, we also should make a timer. Since we've already added in score, money, we can also add in a timer pretty easily. Time can add up in the counter class, and we can simply do plus in quotes /n time colon space apostrophe plus time. Do the same thing inside the ACT method, except time needs to be divided by 60 because it's 60 frames per second. This will add up. So now we have our time. So that'll tell you when our zombies should be moving faster and coming out as quicker and quicker and quicker. Okay, you're welcome to use spacebar or something else. And let's make sure that this upgrade doesn't increase more than 3, and it does not. It does minus to us. If you click on it, it will lower your cache beneath that level. Oh, maybe it won't. But yeah, level 3. Okay. So see how long you can last. You're welcome to change the power up to make it so you have to use a space bar, and you can only use the space bar for a certain number of seconds. I've done that before. So a number could trigger it very easily. I think you guys would be able to figure out how to do that. You could increase the health and have even more superpowers. It would start getting redundant if I added more and more things. So hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you get hit, it'll tell you how long you survived. These will match up. You're welcome to make this an actual image of that we've created, kind of like our score, our cache, our time. You could make a you lose image quite easily for that as well. And that is going to be the end of our zombie survivor game. You're welcome to try to add health for the zombies at a certain point. Do all sorts of different things. Feel free to ask questions at the bottom of the page. Please like and subscribe if you've enjoyed the videos. Now you've completed a zombie survivor game, health bar, superpower, timer, ways to upgrade weapons, have the zombies spawn faster and faster as the game goes on. Until next time, this is Crow's Programming Course signing off. Thanks, guys.